What's going on, everybody? Sam Shapiro back here with more of your Heat latest on FanArc. Happy Friday, everybody. Cup play for Miami tonight as they tip off against the Knicks in the Garden. But before we break down the preview going into tonight's matchup, don't forget to drop a like on this video. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We've got great daily content all pertaining to Miami Heat right here Monday through Friday. The battle between two Eastern Conference powerhouses going off tonight as the Heat are playing the Knicks. The Knicks sitting at 7-4, while Miami 7-5 going into this matchup. Miami looking to improve to 2-0 in Cup play so far, while the Knicks looking to pick up their first Cup win of the season after dropping that game against the Bulls back on Halloween, 135-125 against Chicago. And quite honestly, I feel like the Knicks are kind of playing with a little bit of, wouldn't say it necessarily a chip on their shoulder, but after losing Jalen Brunson to a right ankle sprain in Wednesday night's matchup against the Orlando Magic, they're definitely going to be playing without their top scoring option. Karl-Anthony Towns definitely going to have to step up for the Knicks in this matchup, at least on the scoring front, but he's definitely going, I feel like, to have an advantage with the lack of size Miami kind of has in their overall depth chart. But I think if Miami wants to stand a chance in this game, they've got to force the turnovers, and they definitely have to at least force the Knicks to take uncomfortable shots like they did in their last matchup on October 26th, when they forced the Knicks to shoot 27% rather from the field in that game. And because they were able to contain the Knicks to such a really poor scoring clip, it really, I feel like, kind of limited them to what they're able to do. Granted, they're a top 10 team in the league in scoring right now, scoring just around 120 points per game. That's ninth in the league, but they're also ninth in rebounding per league, outclassing Miami, bringing in about 46 rebounds per game. They're also third in the league in free throw percentage, and a lot of that I feel like dips into Brunson's ability to get to the free throw line. But again, without Brunson, this is going to be interesting to see how that ultimately shapes up for the Knicks. Miami definitely going to have to play defense, and I feel like limit some of those trips to the line, giving the Knicks more opportunities to score without the clock and slowing down the pace, because obviously, as we've seen, Miami really playing fast, efficient, unselfish basketball. Number one in the league in points per game, sitting at right around 125 points per game, and number one in the league in assists with around 30 per game. So if Miami can limit the turnovers throughout this matchup, not just in the first half like we saw against Cleveland, then I think this is going to be a very exciting game for Miami, and they could definitely maybe come out 2-0 in the Garden, especially because the Knicks also dropping their first home loss on Wednesday in comparison to Miami. So both of those teams playing with a little bit of that momentum incentive, at least to wanting to win this game, and then ultimately showing who at this point in the season is really the scarier, I feel like, team to go up against, at least in terms of the slate of Eastern Conference teams we looked at so far. So drop in the comments some scoring predictions you have for tonight. I have Miami coming out on top 121-119. I think it's going to be a nail biter. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have an absolute day, at least for the Knicks, without Jalen Brunson in the lineup. Granted, Brunson kind of went off in that game against the Orlando Magic, where unfortunately they didn't win, but we don't really care about the Knicks on this channel here. We care about Miami, and I think that Hawkes Jr. is going to have a solid bounce-back shooting night. I think Kel'el Ware has the opportunity once again to dominate the paint just because of the lack of size I feel like Miami really has in their overall lineup, and I'm really excited to see what this Miami backcourt can do as well, in addition to maybe watching Davion Mitchell get going, not really having to worry about a whole lot of threats in the grand scheme of things in the backcourt. But I can't wait to see how OG Anunoby matches up with Norman Powell and Andrew Wiggins throughout this game. It's definitely going to be a tight race, especially playing in the Garden. I mean, one of the most historic, exciting environments to really watch NBA basketball in at all. And even growing up watching some Heat Knicks games there, I think that there isn't quite anything that could replicate a Knicks Heat game environment like that, just because I think that there is a little bit of an unspoken rivalry, not to the magnitude of like a Knicks Celtics or a Knicks Pacers type of matchup, but I definitely think when Miami comes to town, at least in the Big Apple, it's always an exciting game for sure. And I'm excited to see how these two teams kind of face off, hopefully with Miami ending up in the win column. But if they can limit the turnovers, keep the rebound battle fairly even, then I think it's going to be a close game. And I think that Miami could hopefully stay in control through the majority of this game. Now, the big talking point going into tonight, obviously, Jalen Brunson's going to be out with a grade 1 ankle sprain. No exact timeline when he's coming back, but it appears like this injury is looking day to day. So he may be on the table to potentially return in Monday's matchup where the Knicks face off against the Heat in South Beach. But quite honestly, the last time that Jalen Brunson had suffered an injury like this, he was out, I believe, 15 games where the Knicks went 9-6 in that stretch. So it definitely seems like it's very plausible that Brunson's going to be out for both of these matchups for the Knicks against Miami. And that's a huge opportunity for Miami to capitalize without their main scoring option, the guy that likes to have the ball in his hands, I feel like, on the majority of the plays. So I think that if Miami can kind of, again, force the Knicks to take uncomfortable shots, kind of put the ball more in Karl Anthony Towns' hands and really kind of force him to either take, a little bit more of uncomfortable shots, not giving him outside shots, because in my opinion, he's the best shooting big in the league right now, or at least one of them. Definitely can make that argument. But I think that without Brunson, this Knicks team is going to have to adapt and really kind of try to share the ball between at least Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns through this matchup, and really kind of utilize some of the other pieces they have in their really throughout their entire roster, because I don't really see any player on the Knicks being a clear-cut defender and being able to shut down a lot of the versatility Miami has in their roster in comparison. So if Miami can play fast, especially without Brunson in the mix, who definitely pushes the pace for this Knicks team, we could see Miami coming up and down the court, beating them in fast break points like we kind of saw on Wednesday with Miami and Cleveland, especially in the first half, outscoring the Cavs 13-0 in fast break points. So I don't want to say that I'm excited that Brunson isn't playing, because obviously I would like to see Miami beat the best version of this Knicks team, because it'd make me a whole lot more excited and give a little bit more respect, I feel like, towards the bragging right I have over some of my buddies in New York that are diehard Knicks fans. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to give Miami the upper hand that Brunson is out. But in comparison, Adebayo is going to be missing his 5th straight game. He's ruled out of Friday night's matchup as well, still dealing with that toe injury. And quite honestly, I saw a tweet earlier today that said, you shouldn't list a player day to day if they're not, in fact, day to day. I mean, he's missed 5 games so far. At this point, I would say he's not really day to day. And I don't want to say that he could potentially return Monday just because we've already seen him miss a plethora of games with this injury so far. But quite honestly, it's rather upsetting, just because I think I don't want to get my false hopes up I didn't want to get my hopes up that he was going to be sidelined for an extended period of time. So when the initial reports came out that he was listed day to day, I was hopeful that at this point in time he'd be back in the lineup. But at this point, right now, it doesn't really look like he's at least going to be suiting up for either of these games against the Knicks. And Miami, don't get me wrong, has been doing a very solid job of adapting without him. A lot of players been stepping up. Jaquez Jr., Jovic in certain scenarios. Kel'el Ware has been stepping up to some extent, not as much as I'd like him to, but definitely in the rebounding department for sure. Spo saying on Wednesday Ware played arguably, if not his best game of the season so far, or at least of this regular season. So I think that's going to, we'll definitely continue to see more signs of that in this matchup against the Knicks tonight. And if, unfortunately, the Knicks can put the clamps on Miami, it's definitely going to leave a bad taste in my mouth as Miami leaves the Garden Friday night. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that all pans out. And hopefully, I also want to remain hopeful because Bam is traveling with the team to New York for this game. So the fact that Bam is kind of at least still in the team environment, still there. Obviously, players do that when they get injured and whatnot. But the fact that he's there, he's kind of on standby, not necessarily ready to play, I would say, just yet. But the fact that he's at least there and he's with the team definitely is a promising sign that I want to at least believe that he's going to return to the lineup at some point and hopefully the next week. But this also begs the question for me, what's going on with Kasparas Yakuchones? How come my man hasn't debuted yet? Like, what is going on? ESPN now has him listed as active. He's been dealing with this groin injury since October 12th. He has yet to take the court for South Beach to start this season. And at this point, I've been looking online to see if there's any reported timelines or when he could potentially return to Miami or really suit up for Miami for the first time so far this season. And I haven't really seen anything yet. And it's kind of discouraging. Now, I don't want to say this is all because of the injury. And I think a lot of it is that Miami is not maybe 100% sure that he's 100% healthy and ready to go. And maybe they just want him to be in that team environment while he kind of works his way back to the, I guess, perfect healthy form that they want to see him at. But quite honestly, it's frustrating that they don't just come out right and say that. I would rather them say he's going to be out for the next 2-3 weeks as he kind of develops into a place where he can at least be completely healthy going into the start of his rookie season, instead of just kind of watching him appear in the game sitting on the bench in warmups, thinking that he could be an available player for Miami to maybe throw in the game at any point in time. And considering how well and unselfish this team has been playing, the passing ability that this young guy could definitely bring to some of these games, I think would have made a major difference in especially Wednesday's game against the Cavaliers, because Miami has, especially over the last couple of seasons, has been in desperate need of a facilitating guard, a really clean-cut, strong guard at the one position, and I think that's exactly why they drafted Yaku Chones. I don't really know what's going on, and I'm very frustrated that I feel like there's no transparency in exactly why he still hasn't debuted and when that date is going to come. But I'd like to kind of have a little bit more of a timeline when I could expect him to come to the floor, because don't get me wrong, it's not like he would be the major difference maker in Miami winning, some of these 5 games that they had lost so far this regular season. But it's just kind of annoying. I feel like the transparency with some of the injuries hasn't really been clear cut, with the exception of Tyler Herro. But now we're kind of approaching that deadline where it was expected he was going to return as well. So I'm hopeful by the end of November, these 3 guys will be back in Miami's lineup. And if anyone could hear me, what is going on with Yaku Chones and when is he going to debut for Miami? Because we're not necessarily relying on the pick and roll right now, which obviously we don't need. But I think in terms of how this team is playing right now, his game at pure healthy form would mesh perfectly into this lineup, especially in comparison to arguably a superstar player like Jimmy Butler that likes to slow the pace of the game up, really have the ball in his hands. I think Yaku Chones would be a really key piece, especially in Miami's backcourt, that could gel with this fast-paced Miami team. And I'm upset that at this point in time, it doesn't seem like he's going to suit up for Friday's matchup against the Knicks. But we'll just have to wait and see how those reports kind of develop. For all we know, by the time this episode ends, we might find out a couple hours later, surprise, Yaku Chones is suiting up for tonight's game. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we have to wait another 2 weeks or so. So we'll just, again, have to kind of wait and see and be patient, and hopefully it'll be worth the wait. But the recap for this game will air on Monday's episode, so be sure to tune in for that. We'll have all of the details pertaining to hopefully a Miami win going into Monday night's matchup, where they will face off against the Knicks again, that time at the Kaseya Center. So hopefully Miami will have a little bit more momentum coming off this tough loss against Cleveland Wednesday and be in 2-0 in Cup play after tonight's matchup. But we'll just have to wait and see. That's me being optimistic. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Your Heat Latest here on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video, and please subscribe to the channel. We've got great daily content pertaining to your Miami Heat right here Monday through Friday. So be sure to tune in every day throughout the week, because we've got all details regarding trade rumors, game recaps, and more. And it's just, quite honestly, for me, it's a lot of fun just talking about a team that I feel like wasn't necessarily expected to be playing at the level they're playing at right now. So it's exciting to see them at least going toe-to-toe, especially with some of these high-powered Eastern Conference teams so far this season. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro. Have a great weekend, everybody.